So let's pick up on some of Shona's points there. We're joined by the tech journalist and author Chris Stoker-Walker. Chris, you've been writing about YouTube, TikTok and also, of course, Twitter, and you've been delving into what this all means for Twitter, for users like you and myself on Twitter. Where do you start? Is it the edit button? Is it the algorithms, the authenticating of humans? What's the focus? Where should we be watching out for?
It's all of the above, Cassia, and many, many more. I think that, if we take the edit button first, as you mentioned, that is probably a little bit of a frippery. It's not something that is hugely important or hugely relevant. There are some risks that come with that, and we have to be aware of them, although I don't think that it's hugely, hugely vital. Elon Musk has also said that he wants to open source the Twitter algorithm. Now, there's two bits of terminology there that maybe viewers might not be fully aware of. Open source means essentially making it accessible to anybody to look at and to try and decipher and understand how it works. And the algorithm itself is the thing that shows us the posts that are on Twitter. So when you open up the app or you go to the website, you see a range of different posts from a range of different people. The idea, I guess, behind open sourcing that and allowing people to scrutinize it is that you can actually see what's going on. It's notable also that actually that is something that the European Union has decreed is important for all platforms in its Digital Services Act, which was passed just this past weekend. So Elon Musk actually is ahead of the game there. Then you have this idea, I suppose, of maximalizing free speech, which he talked about, which is probably the key thing and the most important aspect, perhaps also the most concerning aspect. By free speech, I think Elon Musk potentially means opening a door back for people like former US President Donald Trump, who was banned from Twitter in January 2021 for inciting violence at the US Capitol, and certainly his supporters and those on the very, very far right of politics around the world who said they really welcome this decision by Elon Musk to take over Twitter because they see it as an open door to return.
So when he talks about being a free speech absolutist, does that basically mean that anything goes, things don't need to be verified anymore? And does that mean that, say, somebody who does say a lot of stuff that then once it's verified isn't necessarily accurate, someone like Donald Trump will be allowed back on?
Yeah, and this is one of the great unknowns. And sadly, Cassia, I don't really have a definitive answer for that. We did hear in the report that played just before we started talking that there is uncertainty amongst Twitter employees. It was something that they asked at a town hall all-hands meeting of employees that took place yesterday afternoon, West Coast US time. Late last night, universal time. And I think that is one of the big fundamental questions. I think Elon Musk has a lot of big plans for Twitter, and I think that perhaps they are inhabiting and rattling around his mind, but he hasn't necessarily shared them in a fully formed way with the rest of us. And so we're all kind of left in this complicated limbo, I think. We've had Twitter for 16 years almost, and we know how it works. We kind of understand the principles behind it. And as a publicly traded company, it is answerable to its shareholders and ultimately to the public. But what we have coming around the corner is a privately owned Twitter by a man who is famously inscrutable, famously instinctual, and someone who doesn't necessarily know what his next move is going to be. And we're in this weird interregnum. We're in the sort of awkward phase between both of those where we know where we've come from, we know roughly where we're going, but we don't have the full details. But it's just how we get there. That's the view.
I've got a feeling we'll be talking to you again in that case. Chris Stoker-Walker, as always, many thanks for the time being.